The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Hi everyone, it's Box Seat time again off the back of the Reed Man getting another Group 1 at Alexandra Park last week, his 12th. We'll preview the Canterbury Classic, looking forward to that this week with basically a record nomination, well over 20, and a whole lot more on your show today. Michael Guerin has rejoined us after a week's R&R. Hello, Brand.
Yeah, hi everybody. Great to have your company for what's really the start of the build-up to the New Zealand Cup. I know it started about a month ago, but everybody's been waiting for Akuta and Self Assured, the two favourites, to turn up. They turn up this week at Addington, and now the market will start to change. Should it have changed last week after Copy That's defeat? We'll talk about that also. Don't get too concerned if you're on him for the Cup or your heart is looking for another Cup three-peat. He has been beaten leading up to the New Zealand Cup the last 2 years. But Greg, it gets a lot more interesting this Friday night with that Canterbury Classic, because Akuta was good enough at the workouts to suggest last week he might be the horse to beat in the Cup, and there might be a gap of a length or two, I thought anyway, to the rest.
Yeah, well, he's $3.50 in that market. We'll have a look at that shortly. So what is ahead for you on your show? We'll get right into the IRT New Zealand Cup build-up. We'll get straight into that and go through the races that have been in the last week and also what we have ahead this week. Oscar's back. Yes, he took out the DG Jones Memorial Banks Peninsula Trotting Cup. Reed Man gets that Group 1. Super Stable is underway, and the details around that, some of the great prizes you can win there. We had a first up winner at the Mott, Blue September update there. Good interview there with Dylan Ferguson as well, and the Grand Prix competition, your first chance to enter that. So a lot to get through. Let's get straight into it. The Spring Cup from last week at Alexandra Park, and Fernley Cash was low flying in front, dominated from the top end for Alicia Harrison. This is with Alabar, and Fernley Cash won pretty comfortably in the end.
Over on the outside of Hooray Henry, but Fernley Cash with plenty of dash in the legs, and Fernley Cash for the Spring Cup of 2023. Simply Sam will dive through on the passing lane to beat out stablemate Copy That for third.
Steve, congratulations. Very good performance, Fernley Cash. But let's touch on the drive first of all. I thought well driven by Alicia, moved at the right time and really put the pressure on down the back.
Yeah, no, it was a good positive drive from Alicia, and you know, she's been driving this horse all the way through, and he's been off handicaps, and from the draw tonight I asked her to be positive and you know, trust in the horse's ability, and she did that, and he was good in the finish.
Let's touch on his career, because I talked to you earlier and you said, listen, he's had a few issues. What were those issues in the last 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, look, back when Michael broke him in, Michael House broke him in, he always really rated him as a good horse. So, but he came up to us originally and he had a bad hock injury, and they went to operate, but they weren't able to successfully do what they wanted to do, and that put him back for 6 months. Didn't know if we'd get him back, but a lot of the syndicate people stayed loyal, and he's starting to repay them. Yeah. He had a little bit of a tendon 12 months ago, but he seems good now, and you know, he's sound and well, and good strong horse on his day.
Tonight he was on his day. What do you do with him from here? Holmes DG's in a fortnight. Obviously that would be the obvious target.
Yeah, look, we'll Holmes DG in 2 weeks' time, and then you know, he's a fair way down the cupping list, and he'd have to really go really good over the next month to get there. But probably barring that, we'll probably head to Kaikoura with him and go from there.
Mate, great training performance, you and Amanda. It's a team effort, and obviously the staff are a big part of that as well.
Yeah, no, couldn't do it without the staff with the numbers we have, and you know, the effort they put in both north and south, and you know, really appreciative of all the work they do.
Macca, what did you make of the run tonight?
Yeah, I thought he went quite good really. We sprinted hard for 3/4 of a round early, and then they got home pretty quick, and he made ground, and I thought he finished it off pretty good.
I mean, it was a pretty quickly run race, and you were back in the field. He gave you a good feel, though. I mean, he felt like he's back to somewhere where he needs to be to go into another New Zealand Cup.
Yeah, I think he's still a bit of an improvement in him yet, but no, I thought he went good tonight. I was quite pleased with him.
All right, two main talking points, Michael, out of that. Obviously, the winning performance of Fernley Cash was very good. Home and better than 55 seconds. And Copy That's grand final is still 7 weeks away. So I think he's building nicely at this stage. What are you thinking?
He's had similar runs before in the north and then gone on to win the New Zealand Cup. But let's get back to the winner, because he actually ties in nicely to Copy That. It's just the best example you'll ever see of what it's like to be in the front end of the field as opposed to a handicap. Fernley Cash could go to a rating 60 race of 20 metres and get beat, because most horses in the country can, Greg. They go so fast in front these days, and when they come home here, as they did in under 55 seconds, no matter how good you are, you can't come from too far off them and beat them. So put Fernley Cash in a rating 60, or I backed him a couple of starts ago. He was chasing the whole way, gets beat by Brookies Jaffa, who's not as good as Fernley Cash flat out, one would suggest. Put him on the front end up against the marker pegs. He's feeling confident and happy. He runs home in 55 seconds. He wins. Well, that's exactly what we could see with Copy That. When Copy That gets to the South Island, he'll be off the front in all his races, Ashburton Flying Stakes, if he goes there. And of course the Cup. So put him on the front end in the Cup, rolling home in 54.8, he might win it for the third time. Put him fullback on the outside, Nakuta's running home at 54.8, and he probably can't beat him. And that might be the whole open class season here, just wrapped up in one synopsis, is that while we have three very good horses at the top of the market, and Self Assured, Copy That, and Akuta, and we might add an Old Town Road in there, or a Swayze, we'll talk about him in a second. I don't think there's a dominant horse, Greg, who's just going to be able to turn up, sit 3 or 4 back on the outside and blow past these horses. So it's going to be a really crucial build-up to the Cup, including the Canterbury Classic this week, on who ends up where. You go back over the open class races this season, BD Joe, last time out, just rolled to the lead and he was too good. And I think we're going to see a lot of that this season, because we don't have a Lazarus, we don't have a Black's a Fake who's going to turn up and bully these horses. This is going to be, I believe, the spring of the horses on the marker pegs, the leaders, Greg, and the spring of the horses who turn up in the right races in the right condition. No one's going to be winning races they shouldn't win this spring, I would think, and I think that's indicative of exactly why.
Well, he'll move up the rankings for the IRT New Zealand Cup. He's still $101 if you want to back him with the TAB. And just on Simply Sam and Copy That, only 2 paces nominated for the Inter-Dominion Series in December in Queensland, and it is Simply Sam and Copy That from the Ray Green barn. Let's move to Addington and Bark, who's also trying to force his way in to the Cup, and this is him in front. Pretty brave performance it was from him. Once he gets the lead, he's hard to run past, and here he looks like he's going to get beaten by Beach Ball, and then he's a Sport. But it's Beach Ball that can't quite get to him, and Bark just kept on kicking. He was a little bit too strong in the end, and he's a pretty brave horse. He's already gone round. Of course, here's Herbie in third, not He's a Sport, his stablemate, who will go around this week at Addington Raceway. But Bark's performance first up was excellent. He was good in the New Brighton Cup. And Michael, he's one of these horses that won't disgrace himself in the Cup. I don't think he can win a Cup, very much like Fernley Cash, but still a very genuine free-for-all horse.
And the same race as we saw at Alexandra Park. The leader was in front, up against the marker pegs. 3 or 4 horses could have beaten him. They couldn't get past him. And that's just a numbers game. Because once you start rolling those last sectionals at the rate you want, and you can't dictate to your rivals, then it makes it really hard to run past you. I think Bark could be a really interesting open class horse, because the Duns aren't scared to drive their horses aggressively. He has natural speed. He's a big, strong horse, and he's getting better. So I can see him turning up an open class and being able to dictate in races like an Ashburton Cup or some of the races down south, or a Kaikoura Cup. I can see him being a factor for those, Gregory. Again, you watch those 2 races, and at the top of the straight, there's a clump, and then no one really made any ground, apart from Copy That. Copy That made some good ground. So, they're just panning out that way at the moment. Maybe things will change when a horse like this horse, there's Old Town Road up the inside, at the workouts last week at Porky Greg, running second on this occasion, but maybe he's the type of horse who can come from off the speed. We'll see him at the Holmes DG next week. That was Chimichurri winning that trial. Bolt for Brilliance also in there, the trotter. But Greg, maybe he's one of the few, there's not many, change-up horses who could sit off the speed in one of these races and be a factor. So looking forward to seeing him back at the races.
Of course, not there, Michael, was Merlin, hearing through from Barry Purdon. I know you've spoken to him as well. No dramas there at all. He'll go to the trials this week, and of course, looking forward to getting to the Flying Stakes, where he'll resume his battle with Don't Stop Dreaming at Group 1 level. That's on the 13th of October. Let's, with Garrards, go across the ditch, though, and find out where Kango's at in terms of his build-up towards the Cup. That's him widest on the track in the Anna Donnelly colours. Act Now, former winner of the Vic Derby, of course, is in front and gets the job done. Better Eclipse in second, who we know well. I spoke to Anna about Kango's performance, and she wasn't disappointed, Michael. He was actually last, wide on the track. Sectionally, he was excellent. He'll go to the Kilmore Cup this week, and then he's coming home. So whilst on paper you look down and think, oh, gee, he didn't go that good, she was actually quite happy with him, and obviously he's had an interrupted preparation, missing that race at Melton when he wouldn't load on the float.
Well, he is an absolute marker pegs horse. He's good enough to win down on the grade, Greg, sitting outside horses. But in open class, put him on the marker pegs, which we've seen twice in the last year. He can beat almost any horse. He's beaten Akuta. He's beaten Copy That under those circumstances. But yeah, he's a different horse off the marker pegs. Not that he doesn't try, because he does try, but he's just more comfortable in front or in the trail. Rolling along. So he's still got a part to play in some of these big races. And I don't mind what Arna did. He may not have won a race over there, but he'll come back significantly fitter than he would if he had been sitting around in Auckland and would have only had the one start so far. So he'll add to the Cup picture still. I think with the Cup, we'll do those big three. Old Town Road, who we saw in that video, Greg, and then there's a big clump of horses in behind. The really interesting horse we have to talk about is Swayze. So Swayze was in doubt for the New Zealand Cup. Jason Grimson, his trainer, got disqualified. He appealed that disqualification of 12 months. He got it reduced to a fine and suspended 6-month sentence. So unless he does something stupid, in the meantime, he'll be fine to train. Spoke to Cameron Hart, who drives Swayze, on the radio on Monday morning. Cameron said he is going to be coming to the New Zealand Cup. We believe he is the ideal horse for the New Zealand Cup, and he's working up well now. So they came here last year and almost pulled off the Cup with Majestic Cruiser. Swayze's probably a better New Zealand Cup type horse, although not as proven. But of course, he's beaten Leap to Fame last time. So Swayze, I believe, as much as I can tell, will be at the New Zealand Cup on the second Tuesday in November. Great for the race. Adds enormously to the Australasian-wide appeal of the race, and he shortened after that news last week of Jason having a successful appeal. I think it was around $13 to $9.
Yeah, that's correct, Michael. Favourite for the Cup is the trial winner Akuta, who is currently at $4. You've got Self Assured $6, BD Joe $8, along with Copy That, Old Town Road and Swayze at $9, and Artie's Express is $11. Let's have a look at this trial. Akuta and Self Assured getting to the outside. Akuta in the hands of Olivia Thornley. Blair Orange driving Self Assured. Both very good in this, Michael, hitting the line strongly. 56.8, 27.8. I saw them pre-trial and post, and well, Akuta still looks big and burly, and he'll improve off this trial clearly, and they'll both improve off this week. The field will be out later today for the Canterbury Classic with Lamb and Hayward. It's always a tricky race, Michael, but it's an even trickier race when you A, haven't seen the barrier draw, and B, you know it's going to be a full field.
And a deep field, because Krug is back as well, so he's a genuine open class Group 1 winning horse last season. So It's by far the strongest lead up to the Cup because BD Joe will be fitter than these horses, and if he rolls to the front, I don't think they'll beat him. But is BD Joe as good as Self Assured or Akuta? Well, his open class record would suggest not. So you say to yourself, is an Akuta or a Self Assured a length or 2 lengths better than BD Joe? And how much is fitness worth? But away from all of that, if I'm punting on Friday, I'm asking how much are the marker pegs worth? And how much do you want to get there as a driver? Because if I'm driving Akuta or if I'm driving Self Assured, and thank God for everybody involved, I'm not. But if I'm doing that, I'm thinking to myself, do I want to give my horse a headache? If, just in if, BD Joe gets there first, we know he's not going to hand up, so what do? And that's the guts of open class racing at the moment. That's what we're seeing in all those videos, is how much am I willing to spend to get to the marker pegs? What's my motivation for this week? And what's this guy over here's motivation? So that's the key to it at the moment, Greg, and that's what we and the people at Trackside and HRNZ and all those people have to tell people, because there's nothing worse for punters than Akuta settles 4 back on the outside, doesn't attack because they're not looking to do that this week, and it gets beat and they're filthy. So harness racing, there's a lot of talk about how we're supposed to drive turnover and how we're supposed to help people make money and make harness racing attractive to people on Friday nights. The most important word in that conversation for driving turnover, not appeal, but for driving turnover, is information. You've got to tell people the truth. You've got to get people down to the stables, and that's why it's so crucial for these major meetings. Trackside have presenters on track. Without that information, you just can't bet as much as you would like. And once those figures start to go down, we're all in trouble. So looking forward to hopefully all these big meetings being covered the way they should be covered in the lead up to the Cup.
Yep, and this is a very important race. 6 of the last 14 winners of the IRT New Zealand Cup have won this race, and you're talking about horses like Lazarus, Self Assured, and of course the mighty Terra to Love. And BD Joe gets a chance to join Terra to Love and Lazarus as 2-time winners of the race. Right, let's go to the Mott. It was Banks Peninsula Cup, and of course the DG Jones Banks Peninsula Cup, named after the great man who trained 1,000 winners. This one with Majestic Sun, and Oscar is back, Michael. He's back in winning form. That was win 18 at his 51st start. 58.7 on the grass. Resolve was excellent in second, charging into that position. She missed away. Mystic Max to her inside, and I Dream of Jeannie wider out. But Oscar's been a genuine open class horse for a long time. Yes, he's had his minor injury issues, Michael, but on the grass he would have enjoyed this. We saw him trial the week before and go well with Don't Stop Dreaming and Love Struck, and great win for Olivia as well.
It is. She's doing a really good job with limited enough opportunity. She doesn't get on the top horses very often. I thought it was an interesting race to bring him back, and I didn't think, I thought if it rained and it got slow or soft, I was like, wow, this will be a real test for him. As it was, the track held up pretty well, and he was too good for a brave Resolve. Poor old Oscar, I feel sorry for him, because the worst thing ever happened to Oscar was being as good as he was when he was young. And there was all that talk that he could be taken to North America and he could be the best horse in Australasia, and it felt like he could. And then I think his body started to betray him, like a race car. He's just so fast, but started breaking. And he's never been able to get back to that form. And then 3 great horses came along in Sunday Sun, Muscle Mountain and Bolt for Brilliance. So I would love to see him win a Rowe Cup or a Dominion, so he could almost have the glory we thought he would get. Just not sure he can do it. Maybe he can. Maybe he can. I don't know. A lot's going to depend on whether Bolt for Brilliance comes back and you have 2 absolute totem poles at the head of open class, or whether there's one, because it's easier to beat a Muscle Mountain if he gallops away. It's a lot harder to beat 2 great horses. But I'm glad to see him back. Surprised he's not on this Friday, but I suppose they didn't want to back him up too quickly. I would have thought that would be the more logical race. But of course, they were right. They got the race they wanted, and it wouldn't have done him any harm racing on the grass. I think there's a good race in him, Greg. Whether we ever see the Oscar Bonavena he promised us 2.5 years ago, the jury's still very much out on that, but that's not his fault. That's just a case of everybody fell in love with him so much and he was so fast. Once those things started breaking on the sports car, Greg, I think they're pretty hard to repair.
Yep, so he won't be there this week, but Muscle Mountain certainly will be. Time Up the Hill, Loving the Port, Artie by the Hill. So it's going to be a very good race. Well, we're about to go to our first break, and the 1-on-1 series continues. Malcolm Shin, hope you enjoyed that one this week. Next Monday on Trackside, you can tune in to one of the great dynasties, the Mid-Canterbury family of the O'Reillys. I got to sit down with the 5 boys and find out what it was like to grow up in a remarkable era.
Anyway, they all arrived up there and the bird cage was full of everybody watching me. We did the preliminary and Carl Middleton, he was sort of a bit of a local hero. He said, just follow me, just follow me. It was on the grass. It was that dewy and I was half wet before the start because I followed them and all the water was coming back at me. So I learned the lesson there, the trail up. Anyway, we were walking around the start and old Baldy and he had a big night too, you see. And he said to me, are you ready? And I said, yeah, I think so. Anyway, so we all lined up there and they said, go. Well, swung sideways at the start and sort of lost my advantage there, you see. But we tagged along and Danny McHenry, he had to drive the race and he thought I was on the good one. And he followed me. But I went well too soon. It was on the old track, the old Methven grass track. I went far too soon and come up the straight and ran out of puff. And after finishing post, Danny said, you went too soon. I said, how come you followed me? So anyway, we come back in and Dad just shaking his head. And I said to Mum, don't worry about making any colours, I'll call it a day.
So here is the IRT maiden win of the week. Dreams are free. Don't Stop Dreaming's little bro doing a great job here in the colours of Nathan Williamson. Storms home to beat the well-back Rustenburg. Coaster got it wrong late in the piece there. Brilliant effort by Blair Orange to get him back down pacing. They got home in 56.7 and he looks to have inherited a fair bit of the family ability. Charges home to beat the Herbert colours there. So pretty nice maiden win from Dreams Are Free. And the Nathan Williamson team or run continues. Of course, he'll be at Addington with Pembroke Playboy looking to resurrect his career in so many ways. Speaking of Nathan and the Williamson, here's Isolate, a horse with plenty of breeding out of the Dual Derby winner in Escapee. 3 back on the fence here. In behind, Walking on Sunshine, who finished second in the Derby and won the Oaks up north. Sunny's Sister, who's charged through here and looks all over the winner. But have a look at the stretch of this big girl, much like her mother, a rather large individual, gets there nicely, and we hear from Phil Williamson post-race.
Isolate, we've got an upset in the Group 3. Will beat Sunny's Sister, Walking on Sunshine.
Phil, clearly she's bred to be good, and she is.
Yeah, no, she definitely got the family. Her mother was lovely mare, and only one wee negative is she's so big to be running early. So told the owner if you show some patience, you'll be rewarded.
Yep. Obviously Barrier 1 was an advantage, got a beautiful run on the inside, but were you surprised she was able to pick up Sunny's Sister because she was a wee way in front of you?
Yeah, no, I sort of thought ones with the race experience and the race wins would probably dominate the race, and if I could be the first maiden home and maybe, looking for fourth, we'd be a pass mark.
Yep, big win for Gary. He's got a couple of horses with you. What do you do with her now? Because clearly it's all ahead of her.
Yeah, Southern Oaks is in a couple of weeks down south, so as long as she comes through, we'll go there. And just not over race her this turn. And I think, with 12 months down the track, she's a pretty handy mare and work her way well up the grades.
He's got a team around him at the moment. Michael, Phil Williamson, Empire City by Volstead's a really nice filly too. And obviously the big boys are back in town. Incidentally, both Lovin' the Port and Majestic Man, the only 2 nominations for the Inter-Dominion too. But gee, this filly here, she's got some scope, hasn't she?
Yeah, when you watched her there against Sunny's Sister, it was a bit of an unfair fight. She's so big and she's actually quite chesty, even more so than her mother, and Sunny's Sister's so small. So 2 very well-related horses are there. When you watch that, and Sunny's Sister's going to get better, But when you watch that and you think how untapped Isolate is, she'd only had the 2 runs in the North Island in the past. You would suggest she must improve more than the 2nd and 3rd horses. I thought the 3rd horse looked a little bit choppy in its gait behind the Mobile, so willing to forgive, maybe had just a night off walking on sunshine. But Isolate, you would think, is going to end up maybe being the best of those 3. The irony is she may not be the best 3-year-old filly in Phil's team. I spoke to him after the race for HRNZ and he said, we still think Aroha-Kenny is the best of our fillies. So they'll clash on October the 6th at the Northern Southland meeting in the Southern Trotting Oaks. And then they have potentially races at Addington, but Aroha-Kenny also has the potential to head across to Victoria. So look, there's a lot going on in that space, but if he's saying Aroha-Kenny's the best of his ones at the moment, and it's still $5 for the Trotting Oaks, you can make a case that it's the bet you should be having on the futures. Of course, if you bet up to $50 and it doesn't start in the final field, you get that money back from the TAB. So could do a lot worse. Not saying you should have a $50 bet, but if you've got that sort of wherewithal around you, you could do a lot worse than Aroha-Kenny, New Zealand Oaks, $50 at $5.
Yep, you could do worse than that. Let's go Group 1 racing. Alexandra Park on Friday night, and it was the Reed Man. His colours to the fore again. This is Coastal Babe in front and dominating in excellent time in the Group 1 Caduceus Club. Breaking 240, going off the gate in terrific time and then running home in 57.28.5. She was simply too fast, and we got Craig Thompson to grab the Reed Man post-race.
She's got a Group 1 Caduceus Club Fillies Classic to prove it.
Reed Man, I'm picking you. I've got a mighty big smile on your face. That was an outstanding performance.
Well, I've been training, over 30 years now, and I'll tell you what, it just doesn't get any better than this. I can't believe it, to be honest. I'm absolutely stoked that she's gone in her 3rd start that good.
I mean, it was a hell of a run. I'm talking to a couple of drivers. The track's a little bit off there. She's gone under 239.5. Incredible run. I mean, what's about this filly that made her so special, or she always shown this talent?
Well, that's actually right, because as Matty White just said to me then, he said she looks very underwhelming, and that sums her up. I can't really put my finger on it, Whale. To me, she's a lot stronger than she was, say, 6 months ago, but she still looks like she hasn't quite furnished out yet. But then she gets on the track and she delivers a performance like that, and it really makes that really makes me sit up and take notice when I see a horse lead up like that, run that time at this stage of her career.
I mean, it's a big team effort. I know you're out on your own now. Simon's not there. I mean, you're light in numbers. This gives you a boost. I mean, it's not easy to get up in the morning, train these horses, but she's something special.
100%, and I've been copping a little bit of flack around the track because for the last 12 months people have been saying, have you got anything in the team, Reed Man? Oh, no, I'm only working about 12 and I've got all these babies, but nothing really to write home about. And then this filly just steps up out of the blue. And to be fair, Whale, it was out of the blue. She qualified well last time in, but not exceptional. Probably felt I could have raced her, and I said to Jamie Dunberger, who is Summit Bloodstock, I said, why don't we just put her aside? I think that might have been the big makings of her to do that, because as I said, she is underwhelming to look at. But what do you say about? I've been watching races a long time, Whale, and that even though I train it, you can say, he's one-eyed. That was pretty impressive.
It was an outstanding run, Reed Man. What do you do with her now? Where do you go?
Well, where I'm going to go is I'm going to go home and wrap her in cotton wool. That's the first thing. No, look, she's got size stakes final down in November down at Christchurch. Obviously, I'll have to sit down now and maybe I'll have a talk to Jamie and the other owners, and we'll just pick a path for her. I don't want to overtax her if I can, but who knows?
It's been a while between drinks, mate. We were talking about when your last big win was. It was Harness Millions with Magic 4. That's a while ago. And probably Gold Ace as a Group 1 prior to that. So it was overdue, wasn't it, my friend?
100% well. And I got on TV that night and I said to, I think it was Mick Guerin or Greg O'Connor, I said, I've got my Group 1. It wasn't even a Group 1. But I tell you what, I've got it tonight.
Congratulations, mate. Well done, and all the best for the filly going forward.
Awesome. Thank you.
Matty, congratulations, Group 1 success at Alexandra Park. Pretty sweet, eh?
Yeah, thanks, Greg. It was a great thrill, and lovely little filly to drive, so yeah, awesome.
went off the gate pretty hard, lead time of a very quick 41, or might even been slightly quicker than that, but she sustained that run the whole way and did it all on her own, so there might have been a few excuses behind you, but it's hard to make any.
No, that's right. You know, we come off the gate with a fair bit of purpose, and like you said, it was a quick lead time, but yeah, probably didn't feel like we're going that. You know, she's a lovely going filly and sort of quite deceptive. So, and you know, through the run, she was sort of pricking her ears and sort of having a wee bit of a look around. So.
It's all ahead of her because she's not the finished product, is she?
No, that's right. She's you know, a bit gawky looking still. She's quite high in the bum, and she's got a bit of developing to do. So, you know, that's exciting.
All right, how'd you go on the 100-metre dash? Because you're down here at the Mod for the Blue September promotion. How were the lungs?
Yeah, no good. I've got no speed at all.
Well, congrats on the Group 1 the other night, mate, and I'm sure that's all ahead of her.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Cheers.
All right, Maddie White there. A couple of things, Michael, to come out of that. We'll have a look at that Blue September Bolt for Blue very shortly. But Reedman, 12th Group 1, 11th of his own account, second Caduceus for him. Both you and I got a mention. So Reedman winding back the clock there, and you can see what it meant to him to grab another Group 1. Ultimate Racy Girl, very, very good. Treacherous Baby, I think, might be, well, I'm not going to say she's the best of them by the end of the year, but she might be.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to Craig Thompson for coming on board. Of course, he works for Trackside, and we're trying to work more with all the shows and Trackside together because everybody's trying to achieve the same thing. So thank you, Craig, for doing those interviews from Alexandra Park. Look, I thought Treacherous Baby was unlucky, and yes, it should have finished closer, but it started from barrier 1 and the other horse crossed it in a heartbeat. And we go back to the previous conversation 20 minutes ago. If you can't have the ability to lead early, and she may well develop that, you know, she's only a baby, but if you don't have that ability, you're on the back foot. And that's right up the tree. That goes all the way to Leap to Fame. If you can't run the gate, the horses who can run the gate will beat you more times than you beat them. Now, Coastal Babe is obviously very good, and down by the seaside leaves a nice stamp of a horse, but this is the horse he needs. He needed a horse to turn up and say, hey, check this out. Oh, there's a little bit of Captain Treacherous about me. I can leave a looker who can run. Well, he's got one now. Well done to the Summit Bloodstock boys. They were actually in Ohio at the Little Brown Jug, so Jamie woke up to the news he'd won a Group 1. There's not a lot of time, Greg, between now and show day at Addington. Like, there's less than 2 months, and that's when the big final is. A lot can change for 2-year-olds in that time, but most of them won't race very much. So if you have a horse who feels good and it can leave the gate like that, and once it gets up against the marker pegs, only 2 or 3 horses can possibly beat you.
Well, Michael, I actually had Stephen on radio on Sunday, and he sort of said, oh, and then there's that sort of Harness Millions thing. When is that? He wasn't quite aware where it is. It's the 13th of October, Michael, so we might see her there. But based on that performance, it's 150,000. So whilst he was thinking Sire Stakes, he sort of, oh, where is this Harness Million? And I think it's indicative of a lot of the trainers because they're still finding their feet at this new birth date. Well, yeah, I agree. When I spoke to Reedman, he didn't even mention that. So I thought he must have missed a payment, which would not seem the thing Summit Bloodstock would do. So yeah, that October 13 meeting is going to be massive. And if he decides to go there, because he was telling me he was going next to show day, then again, same thing. She can get off the gate hard. And if she gets in front of these horses, there's not a dominant 2-year-old filly in the country you go, well, she won't beat it. There's no Millwood Nike. It's a funny thing with Coastal Babe. If she was trained by Mark Purdon and Nathan Purdon, and she was Treacherous Baby, who was $7 to $1.90 in that race, we'd all be going, oh, what a superstar. How good's she? How are they ever going to beat her? Because we're so used to saying that about All-Stars horses. But maybe she's just really good, and Stephen Reed won't stuff it up. So maybe she's the best of the fillies. At the moment she is. Whether she still is in 2 weeks or 6 weeks, I guess we'll all find out together. Second horse, really good, as was the third horse, Akatia. So they've got their Group 1 placings, which is black type, which is another conversation for another day because every horse in the country gets black type these days. And Treacherous Baby was good in 4th. Kiss, not so good. Started from a wide barrier, worked around them wide. Get the feeling the run she had at Cambridge to start before for a big filly might have just doled her a touch.
and they'll need to get her back up and ready for those races coming up down south. But yeah, I was on the website last night, Greg, looking at that October 13 meeting, and you're right, I think for the trainers and the viewers and the punters, it's coming around so quickly. You can make a case it's about our 4th or 5th biggest race day of the year.
Yep.
After New Zealand Cup week, raced by Grins. The Harness Millions in the north hasn't really found itself yet, but hopefully it will at some stage, and of course the Grand Prix. So you can make a case that this October 13 meeting sits somewhere in the top 5 or 6, and we haven't given it too much thought. You talk about all those horses, plus Merlin versus Don't Stop Dreaming, it's going to be a hell of a fixture.
Yeah, and it's the Canterbury Park Trotting Cup as well, and Muscle Mountain's in there taking on the Trotters too. So Friday the 13th it is. Make sure you put that on the calendar. Just looking at the markets for the Harness Million, 350 Coastal Babe, 450 for Kiss. Madrid, don't worry, I won't do the do again. Oh, I just
good.
450. Melody Banner is also $4.50, and Melody Banner is the one we want to have a look at, winning at Addington Raceway last week. That's Madrid in the trail. Pretty fair effort from her. First up she just lost the back of the leader round the bend and kicked away for Tim Williams in the Stonewall colours, continuing there. Very, very good week it was. You see Madrid finding the line strongly. You get the distinct impression that she will improve quite a lot out of that. Treacherous Baby, by the way, is the favourite for the Sire Stakes final on show day. Won last year by Millwood Nike, $3.20. Coastal Babe at $5.50. Kiss, Melody Banner 7, Madrid 8. Where the favouritism sits there.
Greg, are you
yes?
noticing a trend here? Well, I think we've showed you 5 actual races on the show today. Leaders won everyone.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's going to change as we get deeper into the season, because you're going to see the better horses getting fitter and therefore able to do a little bit more in the last 800. But we've showed you a trial with the Kuta with the leader one, and we've showed you Chimichurri one from in front.
I've got something different for you, Michael.
Good.
Here's something different. Renegade coming from Off the Speed.
Actually, this is a good horse.
He's got some ability. This
is a good
boy.
Horse. Yep,
He's a nice horse, isn't he? The old firm, Ricky May, Brendan Hill. Have a look at the way he finds the line, Michael. So much to like about this.
What about the horse on the inside? It just wanted to have a look around Addington and steer and
Hadron Collider, yeah.
Not sure he would have won, but he would have got a lot closer.
Yep, he certainly would have. This one's beautifully bred. Captain Treacherous had a double shot. That's the Twice as Good family that's very deep. Wait for No One, Fight Fire with Fire. Good looking baby, was the mother of Almac. So there's a lot to like here, and Brendan Hill's got himself another excellent charge towards the Sire Stakes, and no wonder Richard Terence May is smiling there. He'll have to take this horse on though, and Michael, we go back to what you were talking about before, Lee Major. In front and dominating for Anna Donnelly and Ben Butcher. I think he might be pretty smart, this horse, Michael.
I think he's the second best 2-year-old I've seen in the country this year. Vesum's the best. Now, these things will change a lot, but again, we're getting pretty close to the Harness Million, so there's not that much time for them to change. Still wears the spreaders, and that's more so the fact that he's one of those big, clunky, sizeable art majors. He's not a horse who's, the cleanest looking horse in the world just yet. I think he'll grow out of those. I don't think he's going to be a pacer who needs them eventually. He's good and he's fast. Not saying he's just going to turn up at Addington and beat Vesum and the All-Stars horses, because they're bloody hard to beat down there. But I think he's at least as good as everything else I've seen so far this season. So, yeah, a good horse for that type of racing, because he's showing us he can come from off the speed. He's showing us he can lead, and he's a nice, big, strong type of a horse who's not going to get pushed around, Greg. So he's a real factor in this Harness Millions and for the back end of the season.
Yeah, well, Vesum the favourite for the Sires Stakes. Hadron Collider, the one on the inside for Duns there at $5. Lee Major's also $5, and then Double Jeopardy's out to about $9, as is Renegade, who can only improve with that. What about the Super Stable? It's back with HRNZ. Here's the details for you. Just go to the website. You need to register on InfoHorse. It's pretty easy to do though. The competition runs from the 5th of October through to the Grand Prix Day on the 10th of December. hrnz.co.nz, a $10,000 Whitsundays travel package is the main prize, but there's a whole lot of other prizes there. Entain TAB have got in behind it. It's just a good fun competition. There's a couple of trading windows there for you too to keep you engaged, and yeah, good on them for producing the Super Stable again. Go to hrnz.co.nz for that. Great supporters of the show that they are. Little Brown Jug was run and won. Here's some great footage. Linda Toscano, the successful trainer, Scott Zerin doing the driving. They went 1:49. It's a bucket list thing for me, Michael, the Little Brown Jug. Have you been to one of these?
Yeah.
Oh, well, hardly surprising.
I've been everywhere. Actually, I used to date a beautiful young lady from Ohio, so spent a fair bit of a time in Ohio in my life. This is in Columbus, Ohio, just outside Columbus, Ohio. So, look, she's had a great career, Linda Toscano. Scott Zerin's in a rich vein of form at the moment, so they're having a ball of a time. And yeah, it's like going to the Harness Jewels when it was at Ashburton. It's not a place where you go and think, I'll take my suit, put it that way. So if you had a bucket list, if you've never been to these things, because I've been to all of them, if I had a bucket list and I was to go backwards with them, Greg, I would say the Elite Loppet is the best one. If you have one chance to go to a race meeting outside Australasia, because obviously most people have been to those, the Elite Loppet's the best. Hambo Day's great. Hambo Day at the big...
Oh, I've been to one of them, Michael.
Yeah, well, you're in New York, so it's a lot better. Like, New York's a lot better than Ohio. Every day of the week. The Prix d'Amérique, which falls on Karaka Millions weekend, so I doubt I'll be going to that again, but it's a wonderful race just outside Paris at Vincennes, and then you get into your sort of Little Brown Jug type things. But if you are only ever going to go to one harness race in your life outside of Australasia, well, the Elite Loppet's the best and the purest. Hambo Day if you like beer and hot dogs, and it's also an awfully fun long day and there's more New Zealanders involved. That's my synopsis on places you can go in harness racing and have fun, Gregory.
So basically, I've got a little sand bucket, a little sand bucket that you go and play in the sand at the beach. You've got one of those big tractor buckets that, yeah, it's got a hole in it because you've been to everything 5 times.
You know what, Greg, honestly, Greg, I decided to invest in myself when I was about 30. So all these things I've been to are paid for myself. So people think, oh, you get paid for by the TAB. No, you don't get paid by anybody. No one pays you a cent. But you learn. And when you go to those big race meetings, you always learn something. So, yeah, that's the reason I've done it. And we both gallops and harness. So if you could learn one thing, if you go to 20 of those, you've learned 20 new things. I've always thought that if I was going to do the job I've done for most of my life, or if you were going to be an administrator in harness racing, even a trainer, go.
Yep.
It's tax deductible, and go, because if you don't go, you're only going to learn the same stuff you learn going to the Oldie every weekend, which is not much.
Yep, fair point, Michael. Appreciate that. Hey, there was news coming out of HRNZ that the RIB and them were collaborating to stop drivers talking on the track. We won't go into it on this show, Michael, because I do want to get a comment from HRNZ around how this is going to work, because I know your thoughts on it. Unless it's a hard and fast rule, then how's it going to be policed, who's policing it, and what are the ramifications if you do talk on the track? So we can talk more about it perhaps when we get that update from HRNZ, which I hope to get this week. As we go to our next break, Mia Holborough getting her first win at the Mott. We had Nigel Armstrong out there from his Unhinged to talk to her post-race, but here she is, win 1, just her 3rd drive, Crazy in Love for Greg and Nina Hope, and the big smile on her face pretty much says it all.
Mia's first win in the sulky.
Going into the day, your standing start, trot at Banks Peninsula, it's a lot to ask.
Yeah, it is. I was quite nervous going into it, but yeah, no, she did everything. She pretty much just followed it around. And, yeah.
It must be fantastic having confidence of Greg Hope's horses, of course, going into a trot.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, they're all really well mannered, so yeah, it's really good.
I did notice the first people down there to congratulate you with, of course, Karen Tomlinson and Phil Williamson. Give us your background. Where did your interest come from in harness racing?
Well, I grew up with Amanda Tomlinson. She taught me everything pretty much since I was little. Did all kids' carts and that, and then I left school and then went to Brad Williamson's, and then I was there for about a year and a half. And just came back about 3 months ago, and then I came to Brigham now. So, yeah.
So drive number 3, you say you were nervous?
Yeah, definitely. I was really nervous. Yeah, but was right.
What sort of instructions do you get from Greg?
No instructions, which is just at the moment, just a little bit. So yeah, no, it's been good so far.
In the future, where are your plans from here? Have you got a goal, or what's your ambitions?
Just kind of see how far I can go with harness racing, and yeah.
Well, it must be exciting to working for someone like Greg out at the Hope, is it? Do you enjoy it out there?
Yeah, no, it's really good. I love driving it down the beach. Yeah, it's real cool. Change of scenery, and the horses love it, so yeah, you love it. Yeah.
Cheers. Well, congratulations on that fantastic drive today, Mia, and we're going to see a lot of you with any luck.
Awesome, thank you.
Hello everyone out there, I'm Dylan Ferguson. I'm a Blue September ambassador. Unfortunately, I'm not out on the track driving tonight, so I got stuck with the PR work. And I'm joined here tonight with Tony Johnson, obviously famous Sky TV commentator, and he's come along to race night tonight and joined me for a few questions.
Hey Dylan, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, very
nice
good
to be here.
Very good, thank you. First question is, why did you decide to become an ambassador for the Prostate Cancer Foundation?
To put it simply, I've had prostate cancer. I was diagnosed in 2019. Fortunately, because I've been pretty good at getting a blood test every year, they were able to get it early. If I'd waited for symptoms to start presenting themselves, or if I'd waited another year before I'd done the blood test, I could have been in a world of trouble. But as it was, they got it at an early stage just as well, because it was quite an aggressive prostate cancer. I had prostatectomy in April of 2019, it was World Cup year, and that laid me low for a wee while. But I'm pleased to say that 4.5 years down the track, because of that early intervention, I'm still here. So no, it's been quite a journey. But when I was asked, I did a piece about my journey on Sky just before I called the Bledisloe Cup test in Melbourne last year. And that's when I got a call from the Prostate Cancer Foundation. I was more than happy to become an ambassador.
Yeah, well, as you say, it certainly highlights the fact that, men's health's very important, and I'm sure you've been a very proud man, probably a bit stubborn back in your day as well. And as I say, it certainly highlights the fact that, anyone, but especially men's health's very important, because a lot of things go undetected through stubbornness, basically.
Absolutely, Dylan. Yeah, you're right. And I think there's a couple of things. Firstly, yep, we're stubborn. And I hear guys all the time saying, I haven't been to the doctor for 10 years, or that's actually not that clever. People think it is, but it's not. And secondly, I think sometimes people are afraid to get a test because they might be scared of what could turn up. And I can promise you, being afraid of having a test is not half as much as being afraid of something that's actually happening. So to me, it's all about early intervention. 4,000 men any given year, 4,000 men have prostate cancer in New Zealand or are diagnosed with it. The fact is, it's one of the more treatable forms of cancer if you get it early. And that's the key to it. So we've got to really push that message.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. So better move on before we run out of time. Have you ever been to the races before?
I've been to the races plenty of times, don't you worry. In fact, I can tell you, Dylan, that in 1977, when I was supposed to be swatting for my bursary exams, I decided to take the week off. I grew up in Picton, and my mate and I went down to Christchurch, and I saw Peter Wolfenden drive Sole Command to win the New Zealand Cup at Addington. That was my first taste of it. I was a regular when I lived in Dunedin. I was a regular at Forbury Park. I've actually had a couple of horses. I part share in a couple of horses that Jenny and Leo Cowan here in Cambridge had. This is going back a wee while now. So no, I've always been keen. Now that I'm married with a family and I'm away a lot of weekends, probably not as much as I used to, but don't worry, it's really great to be here, because you just get to feel the electricity when you're at a race meeting. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a thrill that certainly can't be described to people who have never been before, that's for sure. If you had, obviously we've probably covered this already, but if you had one message for males out there that are watching this, what would it be?
Well, I got two messages. One, firstly, for males, if you're over the age of, say, 48, 49, just go to your doctor once a year, get the health check. You don't have to worry about, I know there's the old-fashioned test for prostate cancer. Why am I putting my finger like that? Perhaps some men are not comfortable with that, but you don't have to do that. The blood test is fine. And the other thing is too, is I think we've got to keep the heat on the people running. I know the hospital system, the medical system in New Zealand's under intense pressure, but we need a screening program. We have screening for other forms of cancer. We need it for prostate cancer. And as I found out when I was diagnosed myself, I couldn't believe how many men I knew who had it or had lost someone because of it. So early detection, and let's get a screening program. That's the message.
Well, Michael, they describe this as the Bolt for Blue. Bolt for Blue. Look at Todd Mitchell, pathetic out wide. Blair Orange, not much good. Mark Harrell fell, that wasn't ideal. Corbin Newman took it out and bolted in from Rory McIlroy, who went a pretty good race, but poor old Mark Harrell, well, he hit the deck. Good humour though, the continuation of the Blue September campaign. He's played a bit of footy this season, so young Corbin, so not surprising that he got to the line first and he had time to even salute. So Blair Orange 11 wins, Nathan Williamson 5, Johnny Cox and Zachary along with Matty White all on 4, over 20,000 raised. I think the goal they've got there 45, so it's still got a wee way to go there, but getting past 30 would still be a pretty good effort. You'll notice on the leaderboard there, Michael, the box seat sponsor, the bloke who finished last in the Bolt for Blue there, Todd Mitchell. 0 wins for September thus far off the back of 2 last year. I think we need to find a new driver.
I'm still backing him. I think he'll be okay. Maybe he'll have a late flourish.
He's got one meeting to go this Thursday.
He won't win that race. Good on them. A lot of the boys have really supported this. And it is hard because, there's a lot of causes and you can't support everything. But I think good on the guys for getting out there on the track and running on what's a work day for them. They're working. So I really appreciate how much they've done for the industry or for the cause. And it's important because the industry has to be part of society, Greg. We can't just exist over there. We need to be part of this. So any money raised is good money regardless of what the final total is.
Yep, absolutely. Michael, let's get into the racing this week around Aotearoa. Here is the map for you. We kick things off with Gore in the afternoon. 10 races there on Thursday, 2:09 the start time. Cambridge, they do have a Neville heat, which we'll touch on in a moment. 10 races there, 5:52 is the first. Addington, big meeting, $60,000 Lamb and Haywood Canterbury Classic and the Phillip and Glennis Kennard Bloodstock Lazarus Stakes. Don't stop dreaming back at the races. Timaru race on Sunday, 11 races there. Let's get into that Lazarus Stakes. Don't stop dreaming, he resumes. He looks very hard to beat. This is him in this trial. He goes really nicely, gets through on the inside there. Love Struck comes out of this, Michael, right down the outside, wins the trial, goes on to win at Addington. Oscar Bonavina splitting them, goes to the Mott, wins as well. So looking forward to seeing Don't Stop Dreaming in the Lazarus Stakes this week. What about this horse, Michael? Artie by the Seaside, who was going a very good race on this wet day at Oamaru. Does get beaten, but Treacherous Gal stormed home over the concluding stages, but Artie by the Seaside should be hard to beat.
I think it's a really interesting 3-year-old crop at the moment because we've all had a break and now it's, okay, let's come back and see what we've got. And I still think Don't Stop Dreaming might be the best of them, but I don't think he's unbeatable, Greg. I think there's enough talent in this grade to beat him. If he raced any singular horse in this grade head-to-head, apart from Merlin, he would beat them. He'd be too good for them. But he's not racing them one at a time. He's racing them 10 at a time. And all it's going to take is a couple of Dunn horses or a couple of Dalgety horses to lead and trail and roll home in those 55s, 54s, and the one coming up the passing lane can beat him sitting parked. So, yes, I think he's the best of our 3-year-olds, but I'll be a little bit careful backing him just early doors for now because, as we see from a horse like Who's Delight, these are good horses and they're not going to make it easy on Don't Stop Dreaming. Eventually, I think he'll outclass them, but he's beating Franco Indy here, and Franco Indy's a bloody good horse who's won a Sire Stakes. So if he can beat Franco Indy fresh up, maybe he can beat Don't Stop Dreaming fresh up.
Yep, I agree there. So looking forward to that. Mentioned the Neville Heat, where we see Kalua Flyby take on the unbeaten Mantra Blue. That is on Thursday night. Here's our competition. We talked about it last week. Your chance for you and 3 mates to get to the Harness Grand Prix Day. 10th of December it is. The prize value is up to $5,000. Air travel from anywhere in New Zealand. So if you're an Australian, you want to enter, that's cool, but you have to get here. And we'll get you to and from Christchurch, the accommodation with the Commodore. Entries to boxseatnz@gmail.com. 1 entry per person per week. That will be strictly enforced. It'll be drawn on IRT New Zealand Cup Day. It's brought to you by the Commodore, Entain and Addington Raceway, and we'll have a question each and every week for you. Great prize to win, and we hope you can get involved in that. Don't forget about the Ashburton tender too for What the Hill. It closes this week, so this is your last chance to get involved in that. Go to or send your tender to office@ashburtonraceway.co.nz. Michael, later in the week we'll tweet out our best bet at Addington for both of us in the Canterbury Classic. I know you were keen on Kalua Flyby, but you don't want to be tipping them that short on this show, you were telling me.
Well, also you need to know the odds before you bet. So the odds will be out for Kalua Flyby's race, which is Thursday night. That'll be out Wednesday afternoon. And I believe there's some talks in the background about maybe an earlier standardised closing time for acceptances in harness racing. I don't think there could be anything bad about that. I'm not saying it must happen, but I can't see any reason why it wouldn't happen, and I can't see anybody who will lose if it does happen.
All right, Michael, really appreciate your input on the show this week. Both you and I will see everyone in 7 days. The Box Seat, brought to you by our stable of sponsors. Harness Link, for all your worldwide harness racing coverage. Brecon Farms, New Zealand Bloodstock Standardbred. IRT, it's your horse and our passion. Garrard's Horse and Hound. Lincoln Farms, Renwick Farms, Harness Racing New Zealand. The clubs, Auckland, Cambridge, Addington and Ashburton, and the TAB.